It's the Brad and John Show.
This is B Block. It's 7:28, a little bit late this morning. For those of you listening into the future, we run this show live 7 to 8 o'clock every morning, Monday through Friday. That's Central Standard Time. You can listen live on our stream, which is on bjshow.co. Just click on the link right at the top of the page. Or you can watch this, actually not watch it. Well, you can watch it. You can watch the little icon move around on a bjshow.video, or you can go to bjshow.co for the traditional podcast. Okay, John, I will take back, after reading a story yesterday, I will take back something I said about me with politicians wasting time on the golf course. Okay, you ready for this?
Oh yeah? Did something productive happen on a golf course?
Have you heard the story about the two planes filled with Colombian refugees that they're repatriating these illegal immigrants from the United States. The United States is shipping them back on a plane, and they're repatriating them back to Colombia. And the Colombia president said, no, we're not letting these planes land. You know what story I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I did follow the story, yes.
Okay. And then all of a sudden, the president of Colombia said, on second thought, we'll let the Americans bring those planes in. Matter of fact, we might even send my presidential plane to go pick up some of our citizens who are coming back to our country, not by their own will, but by the federal government. Have you heard how this was done?
No, but I'm guessing golf was involved.
Supposedly, Trump was playing golf on Sunday when this whole thing hit. And between the third and the eighth holes, he was either on the phone or emailing or texting people back in Washington saying, okay, tell the president of Colombia that if he doesn't take these miscreant, citizens of his back, we are going to put in a 25% tariff on everything he sends to the United States this week. Next week, it's a 50% tariff. And he goes on and on and on and on and on. And supposedly between the third and the eighth hole, the president of Colombia went, on second thought, we'll take those guys back. Matter of fact, I'll even send my presidential plane. Have you heard the story that he was on the golf course when this happened?
I did not hear that, Brad. Now, I'll play Brad Hildebrand here and say that Donald Trump could have done that negotiation when he was in the White House. But I think your point is he was able to get it done when he was on the golf course.
Well, let's go back to Joe Biden sitting on the beach at Rehoboth. Okay, how much business do you think he's taking care of on the beach in Rehoboth? Seriously, how much?
I think a little bit in his adult diaper. I think he did a little business in his adult diaper, and then he'd go change it and come back. In terms of like official business, none.
Well, that's sort of my point, But see, John, you and I are this whole thing is getting interesting because you and I are really going to disagree on this kind of stuff. I'm saying Trump is setting okay, let's take it locally. You're a St. Louis County resident, okay? Let's take it locally. You got a guy who doesn't show up for the county council meetings, okay? Dr. Page doesn't show up for the county council meetings. What kind of a message does that send to the taxpayer of St. Louis County? Tell me. And you're going to say, well, he's not required by law to show up at the county council meetings, right?
No, I would actually agree with you on that, Brad. Like, especially if you have a strained relationship. I think now that Dr. Page's position with the council, now that he has less leverage because it's 6-1 against him now, I think ever the more reason that he should be at every meeting.
Well, I agree with you on that. You and I are on the same page.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to now that's one aspect of it. Where you and I would disagree would be if, a company executive. So let's say Bayer has a big confab this week in St. Louis, completely hypothetically. I think if you're the CEO, you don't have to fly to St. Louis to be here with your people. Like, I think it would be a nice gesture for you to be here to show solidarity, but I don't think you need to sit in the planning meeting when they're talking about fiscal year 27 budgets. You get what I'm saying? And that's where you and I might disagree on some stuff.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, but see, with the old Woody Allen quote, what 90% of life is just showing up. Okay, I mean, I can give you my own, and you're going to say, well, Brad, you'd be better off sitting in your studio, texting these people, emailing them. I've got a deal right now with someone who I have a severe disagreement with, and I don't want to get into tremendous details. And this is a radio thing. This is a problem that has come, and I have officially. I've never done this in my life. I've sent an official complaint to the FCC about another broadcaster, mainly because of the fact that the other broadcaster, who is making changes to his station, which is impacting one of my stations, has failed to talk to me. And I've showed up at this guy's office 4 different times, okay? I showed up in person. And what does he send me? Oh, I've been sick. Oh, I've been in the hospital. Oh, I've had an operation. And, and to the point I'm going like, and then now, and once he was officially notified that I've lodged a complaint against him, then he gets mad at me. I can't believe you did that. We've been open. We've talked to you
When he's been ducking you for this long, is what you're saying.
Yes. And to the point where there's something magical that happens when you meet face to face with somebody. Okay. I'm going to a Chamber of Commerce meeting today, okay? For a while, the Chamber of Commerce meetings were done on stupid Zoom, and it was goofy, and, there's weird stuff like that. There's something about walking into a room, seeing someone come up to you, talking to you, telling you, that, hey, they're glad to see you. Hey, how's business? Hey, what table you're sitting at? Hey, why don't you sit with us? Blah, 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 blah. Get what I'm saying?
I get it, and I don't disagree, Brad. Now listen, I have 0 sales experience. I would imagine that it's very hard to build a relationship with somebody and get them in a position where they're comfortable buying from you if they haven't met you, shaken your hand, looked into your eyes. I imagine that that's one industry where the in-person face-to-face thing is absolutely essential.
But I say it's everything in life. I mean, like when if you get married, you don't meet a woman on Zoom and, you talk with her on Zoom, and then a couple weeks later, oh, we're getting along so well. Hey, let's go on a Zoom date, and then 6 months from now.
I think there's some young men in Japan that would say, no, that's actually a great way to do it. I agree, Brad.
And 6 months from now,
I also think that if you were I think that there's something that can't be replaced by Zoom. But I think practically, if your company is based, let's say, in Germany and you work in the United States, I think it'd be nice to be sitting in the same office with them every day. But when it's impractical, you got to rely on – I don't think we disagree that much about this.
I totally understand. But see, okay, I heard somebody talking about this the other day. Okay, and I'll give you my little test. And most people fail this test. Okay, why is St. Louis called the gateway to the West? Do you know the answer to this question?
Well, I'm guessing it has to do with Meriwether Lewis.
Well, not necessarily. It's called.
And everybody started here before they went out west, and this was like the last outpost.
Exactly.
Before they traveled out to California.
This was the last part of civilization. As you got into the late 1800s and early 1900s, obviously there was Kansas City was there, stuff like that. But if we're talking about the people in the early 1800s, and if they were the settlers who were moving west over the Overland Trail, which is, there's still to this day, I can show you in Overland where there's a marker that shows this was the start of the Overland Trail. Actually, not the start. It actually started in the city. But the idea being is that this was where you started from, okay? And the interesting part of that is we've gotten so incredibly lazy, and you look at our ancestors, because once they got, in the old days, once you got past about Tucker, what was 12th Street, if you go back and look at some old maps, the city of St. Louis only went out to like 8th Street. That was the city. That was the outer limits of the city. But once you got, like, let's say past 12, Tucker Street, there was nothing, okay? You couldn't dial 911. You couldn't grab your phone and call somebody. You couldn't look at your phone and use Google Maps and figure out where you're going. You were just totally on your own, okay? And you were essentially risking your life by trying to find a better life, okay? I say 95% of the population in this country right now has gotten so soft and so, to the point, well, hey, and even to the point where, like, sometimes I give my kids grief because it used to be 3 of my sons. Now it's 2 of my sons. What do they do every night? One of them's here in St. Louis. One of them's in Boston. They play video games. And I'm like, guys, you know what? You can go outside. There's something outside. There's people you can meet and things like that. But they're really happy in their own little world. I think it's sad what's happened. I really do.
Yeah, and I think too that we've discussed this before, Brad, where I think that there were people that would have looked at my generation. So I was born in the 70s, and kids growing up in the 80s, there were probably grandparents that said, "Can you believe John watches an hour of television every night after dinner? It's terrible. He should be crocheting or building a Pinewood Derby car." And then so every year as time goes on, we look at young people and we say they're getting softer and softer, and they're spending more time staring at a screen. Now, I might have looked at a screen an hour a day, and a kid today might look at a screen, gosh, counting school, 4 hours a day. But I think we say that about every generation, don't we?
Yeah, but the proof is in the pudding. And remember, we had the general who made the comment about, I think it was the Army general, that said the military age men, and military age men means between the ages of 18 and 35. That's the age bracket you have to be in to join the military. Between the ages of 18 and 35, right now, 77% of the American male population can't pass the physical for the Army. Okay? What does that tell you? You go back 100 years and probably 95% of the adult male population could pass the physical. You know what I'm saying? Because
I think so. But also, Brad, there are people now. I don't subscribe to this, and you don't subscribe to this. But I think there are people who would say, yes, but 100 years ago, our students weren't being taught social emotional learning in school, and they weren't in touch with their feelings. And Brad and John, listen. School is not all about physical education. School is about also getting in touch with your feelings and working with your classmates, Brad and John. I mean, that's for some people, Brad. Their definition of advancement is, why must we look at health statistics? Why don't we look at mental health statistics, Brad? I bet there are more kids today that feel good about themselves than they did 100 years ago, Brad.
I think you're wrong, because there's more kids today looking at themselves and thinking, okay, I'm a boy, but shouldn't I be a girl? That's what they're doing today.
Or they're a young girl and they look at stuff and they say, "Why? I see another 9-year-old with a whole bunch of makeup on this YouTube thing. Why doesn't mom buy me a bunch of makeup?"
Right. Okay. My voice is starting to come back, John. You're giving me good exercise here. Okay.
All right.
We have to take a break.